and exact justice for every citizen, regardless of color or sex or nationality. That was the platform of the Equal Rights Party when Belva Lockwood ran for president in 1884. And how proud I was to have my name as an elector at large on that party ticket, because we stood for something. At a moment when the two major parties didn't, we called for an end to monopoly, the tendency of which is to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. We wanted a recognition of the sovereignty of all Indian nations, equal wages for everyone and a decent living, and probably most importantly, an end to war. We would bring an end to war, and we had a plan. If every nation on earth agreed to mandatory, binding arbitration of any dispute, we could end the practice of war. We knew it could be done. We knew it because it had already been done. Long before white men came to what they called the New World, in what is now the state of New York, 5 nations came together and agreed that they would never war against each other. The foundation of the Iroquois Confederacy was a permanent peace. So perfect was this old republic, one of the oldest in the world, that it is said that the founding fathers based the Constitution of the United States on the Constitution of the 5 nations. They recognized that the condition for permanent peace was absolute and equal justice for every citizen. And that, of course, included women. There was a balance of power and authority. Men and women both had their own councils, and every voice was heard. But the women had the final authority on all matters relating to war. They could withhold moccasins from the young men going off to war. They could not allow them to have any food, but beyond that, it was their responsibility, as it was their responsibility to nominate and hold in place the chief. And they had the final authority on all matters relating to birth. For a woman to birth an unwanted child is a crime against the mother and a sin against the spirit of the child. And they recognized that. And women were the absolute sovereigns of their own bodies. Every child born was a sacred child. And because of the sacredness of birth, recognized in this way, women were given the responsibility to bring forth life from Mother Earth. They didn't practice farming the way that we do, with cultivating with a plow. They instead tickled Mother Earth with a stick or a piece of bone, and she laughed forth abundance. The women planted corn first. The seed went in to the mound, and then they planted the beans, which twined around the corn for support. And finally the squash. The large leaves covered the mound, keeping the moisture in and the weeds out. The 3 sisters, the 3 supporters, they called them. And they nourished the people so perfectly, no one went hungry. In 1893, I was arrested for voting in New York State in a school commissioner election, a right which I held as a tax-paying citizen of my state and my nation, and yet the government would not protect that right. The same year I was adopted into the Wolf Clan of the Mohawk Nation, and I was given a say in the choosing of the chief, a voice in the government. And these people were so civilized that during the Middle Ages, when we venerated the warrior, they held ceremony, and continue to, where The ceremonies are around thanks to the earth, thanks to the three sisters, thanks to the corn. Do you call them a heathen? Well, the world does, and says that we must give them the knowledge of the truth that we practice. Well, we venerate wealth and money, and we do not thank the soil and the food that sustains us. And they understood that the condition of good agriculture was a permanent peace. War will always be with us, we are told. I know that's not true. I know that permanent peace is possible. I know because it's been done. And it is the legacy of our land.